Hello, we'll continue with from where we stopped in the last part. So we are reading Julius Caesar. We are on Act 3 of Julius Caesar. Caesar has just been assassinated, and Act 3 is the climax of the play. It is the point at which the events which happen in Act 1 and Act 2 come to a climax or a head. So uh, Caesar has been assassinated, and the conspirators are getting ready to the um, face the consequences of their actions. So we are on line 85. So Caesar has just died. Cinna says, "Liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead. Run hence, proclaim, cry it about the streets." So Cinna uh, announces in the Senate House that Rome has obtained freedom, liberty, and there's freedom for the Romans, and that the tyranny of Caesar has the tyranny of Caesar is over, and he asked the senators to run from the Senate House and announce it about the streets of Rome. Cassius, some to the common pulpits and cry out liberty, freedom, and enfranchisement. So Cassius also makes a general announcement. He asks not only the senators but also the conspirators to cry out in the common pulpits, that is, in the marketplaces, and announce that Rome has obtained liberty, freedom, and enfranchisement. Brutus tries to calm down the commotion, the panic that is taking place in the Senate. All the senators are running about in a real panic stricken state. So Brutus tries to calm them down, and he says, "People and senators, be not affrighted." He asks them not to be frightened. He asks them to fly not. That means don't run away. He asks them to stand still. Ambition's dead is paid. So he says that Caesar was ambition, and because he was ambition, he has died for it. That is, ambition's debt is paid. Casca, go to the pulpit, Brutus. Decius and Cassius too. So Casca asks Brutus and Cassius to go to the pulpits, and Brutus asks, "Where's Publius?" Here, quite confounded with this mutiny. So Publius is one of the senators, and he's quite uh, mind-boggled at the rebellion that has taken place. Metellus, stand fast together, lest some friend of Caesar should chance. So Metellus asks them to form a group because some friend of Caesar's may attack them. Brutus, talk not of standing. Publius, good cheer. So Brutus says, don't talk of standing still. He goes to Publius, who is an old senator, and he asks him to be of good cheer. And he tells Publius, there is no harm intended to your person. He tells Publius, there is no harm intended to Publius, nor to no Roman else. So tell them, Publius. So he asks Publius to go to the marketplaces and announce that there is no harm intended to any other Roman. Cassius, and leave us, Publius, lest that the people rushing on us should do your age some mischief. So Cassius asked Publius to leave because the people may rush onto the conspirators to attack them for killing Caesar, and they may do Publius, because he is old, they may do him some mischief. Brutus, do so, and let no man abide this deed, but we the doers. So Brutus asked Publius to leave and make the announcements, and he says, let no man take responsibility for this deed, for that action of killing Caesar, except the conspirators. All but the conspirators exit. Enter Trebonius. Cassius, where's Antony? Trebonius fled to his house amazed. Men, wives, and children stare, cry out, and run as if it were doomsday. So Antony has run away, escaped to his house, and he's quite confounded or mind boggled at what has gone on that day. And even the people of Rome, whether they're men, whether they're women, or whether they're children, they stare and they scream and they run about as if it was the last day of the earth, that is, doomsday. Brutus, fates, we will know your pleasures. That we shall die, we know, but 'tis but the time, and drawing days out that men stand upon. So now Brutus uh, is he's curious as to what their fates, what the fate of the conspirators will be. Everybody knows that he or she will die, he says. It is only how we live, how we draw the days out, how we lengthen the days we live, that men are worried about, men stand upon, men are concerned about how they live. Casca, why he that cuts off 20 years of life cuts off so many years of fearing death. So Casca says that anybody who dies 20 years prematurely shall escape 20 years of fearing death. So Brutus, grant that, and then is death a benefit. So if a person were to die there prematurely, then he would not fear death for the time he would have lived. So are we Caesar's friends that have abridged his time of fearing death. So he says the conspirators are actually Caesar's friends because they have cut short Caesar's time of fearing death. Then he asks the conspirators, says, stoop, Romans, stoop, and let us bathe our hands in Caesar's blood up to the elbows and besmear our swords. So he asks them to bend down and smear or rub Caesar's blood onto their hands up to the elbows, and also smear or rub the blood of Caesar on their swords, and then they should walk forth even to the marketplace, and waving our red weapons over our heads, let's all cry, peace, freedom, and liberty. And waving the blood-stained weapons over the heads in the marketplace, let them announce, he says, let the conspirators announce that Rome has obtained peace, freedom, and liberty. So Cassius agrees with Brutus. He says, stoop then and wash. So he asks them to bend down and wash their hands up to the elbows and their swords with Caesar's blood. So they do that. They smear their hands and swords with Caesar's blood. How many ages hence shall this our lofty scene be acted over in states unborn and actions yet unknown? So Cassius says, in how many future ages, in states or countries which are still to be formed, and in languages which are yet unknown, shall this great scene be enacted time and time again in the future? So, Brutus, how many times shall Caesar bleed in sport that now on Pompey's basis lies along no worthier than the dust? So, Brutus wonders that in the future, how many times shall Caesar's assassination be enacted, and Caesar, who is now lying on the same basis as Pompey, as Pompey was killed by Caesar, and Caesar is also dead, and Caesar is no worthier, as of no more value than the dust. Cassius, so oft as that shall be, so often shall the knot of us be called the men that gave their country liberty. So Cassius says, so often as the assassination of Caesar is enacted, so often shall it be proclaimed that the group of conspirators shall be labeled as the, the people that gave their country, Rome, liberty. Odysseus, what shall we forth? Cassius, I, every man away. The Brutus shall lead, and we will grace his heels with the most boldest and best hearts of Rome. So he asked the conspirators to leave and go to the marketplace, and Brutus shall go in front, and they will grace his heels or follow behind, and they are the boldest and best hearts of Rome. Enter a servant. Brutus, soft, who comes here? A friend of Antony's. So, servant of Antony's kneels, and he says, Thus Brutus did my master bid me kneel. Thus did Mark Antony bid me fall down. And being prostrate, thus bade me say, Brutus is noble, wise, valiant, and honest. So the servant tells Brutus that Mark Antony had told him to kneel in front of Brutus. Then Mark Antony had told the servant to fall flat on his face, and after being prostrate, he had been the servant to say that Brutus was a noble, wise, and valiant and honest man, and Caesar was mighty, bold, royal, and loving. So Antony has bid the servant to tell Brutus to say, he loves Brutus and he honors Brutus. And he says, he feared Caesar, honored and loved him. Mark Antony feared Caesar, honored and loved him. And Antony says through the servant, if Brutus will vouchsafe that Antony may safely come to him and be resolved how Caesar had deserved to lie in death, Mark Antony shall not love Caesar dead so well as Brutus living, but will follow the fortunes and affairs of noble Brutus. So Antony has bid the servant to ask Brutus if Brutus will grant Antony a safe reception. Antony will come to him to decide, to be resolved, how Caesar deserved to die, and if the reasons are good enough, then Mark Antony will uh, forego his loyalty to Caesar and turn his loyalty to Brutus. He loved living Brutus more than dead Caesar, and he will follow the fortunes and affairs of noble Brutus through the hazards of this untaught state with all true faith. So says my master Antony. So he will follow the fortunes and affairs of noble Brutus through the hazards, through the dangers of this untried state. So the state of Rome at that particular time was very dangerous because it was an empire without a head. There was no one to govern it, and anything could happen. So Brutus will be followed by Antony through the dangers of this untried state in all true faith. So the servant had bid. So Antony had bid the servant to say, tell Brutus.